This is Cowbell Off Campus, featuring your hosts, Landon Young and Addison Thigpen.
Good morning. Welcome to Cowbell Off Campus. We've got the verse of the pod to kick things off with. 1 Timothy 4:16 says, "Keep a close watch on how you live and on your teaching. Stay true to what is right for the sake of your own salvation and the salvation of those who hear you." Good morning. We'd like to first thank maroonandwhitenation.com. It's a Mississippi State sports blog that produces content just like this, made for Mississippi State fans. This podcast is published on the website after this, so you can check out Cowbell Off Campus on maroonandwhitenation.com. Before we get started, we'd love for you to leave a 5-star review, subscribe to this podcast, and leave a 5-star review. That'd be great. We really appreciate it. We thank all of our listeners for listening. We are literally just two Mississippi State fans doing this because we love talking Mississippi State football. So if you would, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. We would highly appreciate it. Addison, we're back to a preview episode, which makes the week just so much better because you've got Mississippi State football coming up this Saturday. Yeah, we had what we thought would be a less stressful weekend last weekend until John Cohen left, and makes that an interesting week while we're playing the Auburn Tigers this Saturday. But today we're going to preview the Auburn Tigers. We're going to have AT's 3 keys to victory to beat the Auburn Tigers. Then we'll have our offensive playmaker, defensive playmaker. We'll give our score prediction and analysis, and then we'll answer your Twitter questions, which is by far our favorite thing to do on the show. So let's kick things off with AT's 3 keys to victory. We're back. We're in it. We got to win. We'll talk a little bit about this, and I'm interested to hear kind of your side before I even say the must-win stuff. But what are the 3 keys to beating Auburn on Saturday?
Yeah, I'm excited about this game. Obviously, a lot on the line here for us and the rest of the season. Auburn as well, and they got our old AD, so we got to go win. We got to go show out. But with that being said, I think the 3 things that I want to see us do. First off, which we've talked about it on the show a little bit, is we got to get the ground game going. I think I don't remember exactly what the stat is, but I know that in games where we've rushed over 80 yards. We win most of the time. In games where we rush under 80 yards, we lose a lot of times. So we gotta get the ground game established. I don't know if that's a 2-back system, a 1-back system, or what. I think we'll come out of the backfield with the 2-back system like we've seen, and I hope that we can kind of at least get going there to open up the air raid a little bit more. I think it's crucial. I think it's really crucial for us to establish that here early on. Second thing I think is a key is just no stupid penalties. We've gotten a little better here. I feel like some games it's mental errors that kill us, false starts. And honestly, just like in these SEC games, we can't let that happen. We got to be like super, super tight across the board. I hope we're having a great week of practice this week, getting prepared for this weekend. And honestly, that's just one thing that this weekend we just can't do. I know that's a very easy key to win, but it's one of those things that like we've struggled with, and we've got to make sure that we're playing fundamental football. We have to play fundamentally. The last thing, and it's going to be the most important thing that we do this weekend, we have to stop Tank Bigsby. The guy's an animal. He's good. He can run the football. We've done pretty well against the run, all year, but we did see what happened against Kentucky when they had a stud who put up 196 yards on us. So we have got to be able to stop Tank Bigsby. He ran all over OM's defense. He's dominated other teams this year. He's good. He's a great running back, and we don't need to overlook him just because Auburn's had a bad year. The guy's a stud. We got to stop him.
What's interesting about all 3 of your keys is I think that if we don't do one of them, they will be in the game in the fourth quarter. This is in all three keys to victory that we have to accomplish on Saturday, because if we don't stop Tank Bigsby, they're in it in the fourth quarter. If we have stupid penalties all 3 quarters, we're taking that game into the fourth quarter tied up or they're up. And then if we can't get the ground game going, like you said, we've proven that if we don't, then the teams are going to compete with us and probably beat us. So those are all essential the Tank Bigsby thing sticks out to me the most because of, like you said, what he did to Ole Miss and what he's done to several teams, what he was doing against Arkansas this past weekend. He looks really good. And
Yeah.
the kid's a stud. I kind of hate that. I really don't know that the Brian Harsin thing, him being fired, helps us
Yeah. It
because
doesn't.
they're going to come in fired up, ready to play for whoever is taking that interim role, which I believe his name's Cadillac, which is never a good thing if you're playing against a coach named Cadillac. So I don't, and you've got a running back named Tank. You've got the coach is named Cadillac and the running back's named Tank. It's a recipe for disaster. But I think that's probably your biggest key to victory is we've got to stop that kid.
Yeah,
It,
I
it,
agree.
it makes me nervous with the Chris Rodriguez thing from Kentucky, but we did have to focus on two things with Kentucky. With Auburn, I'm like, Zach Arnett, you need to be focusing on one thing, brother. You need to be focusing
Yeah,
on stopping Tank Bigsby.
that's it. Yeah. Stop the run, make them throw. Like, yeah, do not let don't let Tank play Tank's game, honestly.
Exactly. They don't have the talent at quarterback right now. I believe they're on their third string quarterback from the start of the season. They don't have the talent, and he will make mistakes. So put it in his hands and let Emmanuel Forbes do the rest.
Yeah, I agree.
Moving to just the Auburn preview, we talked a little bit about this on Tuesday's show, but this is truly a must-win game for multiple reasons. The whole John Cohen thing just added another factor, but there were already must-win factors to this game before that happened, which is Mike Leach's tenure kind of wraps around this game going, if he doesn't win this, you start to really question things within the Mike Leach era. And then also you look at the Will Rogers factor of Will Rogers won't throw for over 5,000 yards if he doesn't go off against Auburn on Saturday. You got 5 games, including the bowl game left. You're going to have to get started somewhere. He didn't do it against Alabama, and he didn't do it against Kentucky. You're back at home. Will Rogers needs to have a day to be able to hit his stat mark like we thought he would before the season started. And then lastly, the other factor is just our season in general. This season, the 2022 season, looks different if we win or lose this game.
Yeah. No, it does. It does. I mean, it does. Honestly, this game's big for our school and the program as a whole. This is a lot. I mean, we've got a lot riding on this. Yeah, they just took our AD, and like we're gonna have to bring somebody else in to go and adjust all that. So I mean, I think that's one piece of it, just a small piece of it, with everything else that's going on in Mississippi State. On top of that, we're fighting for a better bowl right now. We're really just fighting to get into a decent bowl at the end of the year, hopefully. And we need to win this game to do that. And honestly, I don't think we're okay with being 4th, 5th, 6th in the West or the SEC this year. And if we don't win this game, that's where we're going to end up. And so, like, honestly, there's just a lot riding on it for the school. We've got to finish our seasons out well. It's something we haven't done under Leach, and this is a really good chance for us to go get started to do that this season. I mean, we've got to win here. We've got Georgia right after. It's not like we've got an easy slate of games coming up in these next 4, and we really need to get started by winning against Auburn. Not only has Auburn been notoriously bad this year, but also on top of that, like everything that's going on is just madness over there. They lost their head coach. They've got an interim head coach. Everything is leading up for us to win this game. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but it is, and we should win. Yeah, it is. And honestly, these are the games you lose, because if you remember when we had an interim head coach against Lamar Jackson, I don't think Mississippi State had played better all year than we did at that moment. And we had a backup quarterback in that game. So I don't want anyone to look at the Cadillac situation and think, oh, it's a guaranteed win now. If anything, I think it hurt us because we don't know how he coached. Yeah. So I think it's a worse situation to be in. But with that being said, there's no reason that we lose this game at home at night this weekend against Auburn.
I agree. So let's move into our offensive playmaker. I think you've kind of alluded. I'm guessing in my mind of who you're gonna go with this game, but who's your offensive playmaker?
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep it with the man himself, Will Rogers. I want to go ground game and go like DJ. I think he's going to kill it. I don't know how if he's injured or not. I know he's had some issues here recently. I don't know if we're expecting to see him fully on Saturday, Dylan Johnson. But with Rodgers though, I think he's got to be the man. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. He's got to go, like you said, he's got to get started. If he's going to break that 5K record, he's got to really get after it on Saturday. And honestly, just to be honest, I want to see more from the kid. I want to see him really have a good day.
So I'm doing the kid you named in what you just said. I'm doing Dylan Johnson. I wrote down before the show. It's a running back this game. Dylan Johnson off the rest week. I think he's going to be good to go. From my understanding, of course, Leach never gives us enough to fully know.
Right.
But from my understanding, he's good off the bye week, and he should be going. Also, moving into the defensive playmaker, I'm hearing Crumedy, we will see him for the first time this season, this Saturday.
And that, like, I'm sure we're getting into the defensive playmakers, and that was going to be my guy.
Yeah.
Not because we don't know anything, so I could be totally off here. Just really, really excited to see him get back on the field there.
Everyone's predicting him to be back on Saturday. Leach is alluding to it without actually saying his name, which is frustrating.
Right.
But he's, from my understanding, he's in, and I like that kid too. So Crumedy, your defensive playmaker.
Yep.
I like Bookie Watson just from I've probably used him at probably half the games this season, but he is in his interviews and everything, he's really fired up to get back on the field on Saturday after the bye week. And you just feel the energy of leader whenever he starts talking in press conferences. And that being said, we need more leaders on that defense. Him and Jet obviously are kind of the guys that are looked at as those leaders, but they've really got to step up with what doesn't seem like a student-led team, a student-led defense. You talked about no stupid penalties. I think it's on Bookie Watson and Jet Johnson to shut that down, because our defense every game this season has made at least one stupid penalty where we can't stop tackling guys out of bounds. I mean, it's right. They're playing great, mean defense, but there has always been a stupid penalty, and if we can stop that, they're going to look almost perfect. And I like Bookie Watson for Saturday. So we've got our offensive, defensive playmakers. What's your score prediction and analysis? What happens in Davis Wade on Saturday night at 6:30?
Yeah, I think it'll be loud. I think we're going to be excited, fresh, mean, ready to play. I think we win the game. I think we win it big. I think we can win. I think we should. This is what my prediction is, and anything less than this is getting rough. Honestly, I think we go win 35-17. I think it's a dominating win for us. I don't think that they bring it close. I think maybe even 17 is them kind of getting a fourth quarter touchdown, to bring it closer than what it is. But yeah, I think we put up 35 points, and I think we hold them to less than 20. So
I love that score prediction. That's a really good one. It looks pretty, and I think that's going to be really close. I'm going to go State as well. I think we win. I think that, like you said, Davis Wade at night plays into this of us kind of pulling away. I like us, man, because of the games that we've won, we've averaged over 40. I'll go 42-27. 42-27 with a Tank Bigsby touchdown in the fourth quarter or something.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. So before we answer your Twitter questions, let's first hear a word from our sponsors. All right. We are back answering your Twitter questions. Thank you so much for sending those in. I believe we have 8 or 9 questions to answer today. So, Addison, are you ready to answer these fully, truthfully, and to the best of your ability?
I'm ready. I have only looked at one of them this time, so I love this. I'm gonna be off the cuff here. We'll see.
Okay. So we've got Teresa Horton. She sends in, I've always thought these decisions should be made at the end of the year. I responded to her and said, not much of a question, but great statement. You'll hear us talk about it on Thursday. She's alluding, obviously, to the whole John Cohen thing. I guess just give me a summary of your thoughts now that since Monday's show, Monday and Tuesday's show, we finalized the deal. Auburn finalized the deal. He's gone. What are your thoughts in a nutshell?
Yeah. And I'm going to bring up what Matt White said
I
on,
love
I don't know
this.
what day it was. Yeah. He mentioned that, it was selfish, kind of disrespectful, that kind of thing. And look, I'll say, like, I understand where they're coming from. Like, I think people are more upset at Cohen than they are at Auburn, obviously, and just the way he handled it. And I can get that. Right. Unfortunately, on Twitter, I only have 280 characters, so I couldn't say, hey, I agree with Cohen. Maybe he could have handled it better. I just kind of had to go right at it. But no, I don't agree with that. I don't think it was disrespectful. I don't think it was selfish. I understand that these things do normally happen at the end of the season. But guys, at the end of the day, this is a business. We're running a business here. Auburn's running a business. I mean, if Kirk Herbstreit or any reporter you've ever heard of left for like if he went to CBS or ESPN or a different network tomorrow, everybody'd be like, oh wow, that's crazy. Kirk Herbstreit went to a different network. Wow, good for CBS or whoever picked him up, and that's how we would talk about it and we would move on. But for some reason, because it's an AD moving to another school, it's more polarizing. It's like when coaches leave and go to, I mean, it's just a job, I mean, yeah, we didn't get his 2 weeks notice. But I mean, at the same time, do you want him to tell you, hey, well, I'm going to be gone in 2 weeks? No, for this type of role, the moment that he's out, he's out. We got to go find somebody else. I'm not worried about it, honestly. I think that, I think it's just part of what happens in being in business and
Especially in
working
the
with people.
SEC.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a business from coaches to ADs to all these guys. Dan Mullen moving to Florida, total business decision. They could pay him more. His program had a higher ceiling at Florida. Like
Right.
we gotta get over it a little bit.
Right.
I text you and Avery this kind of. I was listening to the Thunder and Lightning podcast, and they're talking about like the whole family thing. It's awesome, and you feel it in Davis Wade, and
Yeah.
it's a thing. But we can't hold these guys to that same standard. The fans, yeah, we're family. Like sports brings people together. Cohen and Dan Mullen and these guys are so disconnected from all that they are not focusing a bit on any of that. They want to just win ball games, and they'll do whatever it takes, even if that means moving to another program.
Exactly. They want to drive revenue and win ball games. They want to do whatever they can to make that bottom line bigger,
Yep.
and it's a business. And also to that point, on the versus there, we got Lane Kiffin and everybody's talking about how he can leave, and OM fans are in shambles. They think that there's no way that their legend coach leaves. Money talks. It's a business. So, if a different company in quotes here, if a different company is paying you more, it's tough not to look at that opportunity.
Boy, does it feel like 2018 with Dan Mullen right now, does it? I sure hope Kiffin's out, man. And
Me too.
I know all Ole Miss fans disagree, but Cameron Black sends in, will Cohen be at State versus Auburn? LOL. I have an answer for you. It was released last night. He will not be in attendance at the game on Saturday. He there's like rumors. It was an Auburn reporter that reported this, that said he will not be in attendance at the game, but he could be at his house in Starkville.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, does he even have a house in Auburn yet? Has he had time to sell his house? He's probably still staying in Starkville for right now.
With everything,
but no,
locked.
that's fine. It's good that he doesn't need to show up to that game in Davis Wade. That dude would get killed by cowbells. I mean, yeah, he doesn't need to show up. I think he should stay at the house for sure.
I'm kind of like, are we making a way too big of a deal over this whole Cohen thing? Because like Cohen's not the one winning us football games. Sure, he went out and got Mike Leach, but Mike Leach is the one who it's in his hands. It's not in Cohen's hands.
Yeah.
So
I think we're making way too big of a deal. He kind of killed us on the NIL, to be honest. We had over 100 people join yesterday after, or we've had like 300,
double.
400, 500. Yeah, double since he left. Which I guess it's just fans getting into it and everything. But no, he's killed us on the NIL. Honestly, did a terrible job there. Like I'm not even kidding. He did a terrible job, and I wasn't paying attention to it until he left, which is crazy. And the more I was reading about it, the more I've looked into it, man, he really, really did not do a good job getting us into the NIL and getting us money. So people saying he left to go to Auburn because they have better NIL, that is a total load of crap, because he's the one that screwed us here. And honestly, like I think out of the other hires that Keenum's made, he was the worst one. I think he was still a great AD. Don't get me wrong. I think I'm not saying I'm happy he's gone, but I do think out of Scott Strickland, your Greg Byrne, this is the worst AD we've had.
Mark Keenum settled. I don't think he'll do that this time. He just brought up a coach.
Yeah.
I hope we will go out and find an athletic director. One thing that Cohen needs to do that you mentioned, he's not good at NIL stuff. He's a very kind of old school guy.
Mhm.
He needs to bring in a Lane Kiffin if he wants to produce NIL stuff at Auburn, because at State he wasn't doing it, and we need to bring in someone, which leads us into our next question from Ray Hewlett. We need to bring in someone that can do that can market Mississippi State to be. I mean, we're in Starkville, Mississippi. We need someone who is good at marketing our program to be able to get in some big vendors to this NIL deal with all these players. Ray sends in, who would be your first pick as athletic director to replace Cohen?
Yeah, so this was the only question I read before. This is a great question. Ray, I did some research, man. I was Googling 80s and figuring out all this kind of stuff, and I was like, man, I'm gonna give him a great answer. I looked up a bunch of stuff for this, and I'm not even kidding. I probably looked stuff up for like 30 minutes to an hour because I got into it. It was one of those rabbit holes I went down about 80s in the country. And at the end of the day, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know. My answer to this question is I fully, completely, 1000% trust whoever Mark Keenum wants to hire is exactly who Addison Thigpen wants to hire too. If Mark Keenum said he wants this name, I'm like, that's who I want too. He says he wants this name. I like that too. I'm good with us, maybe promoting somebody up from a different sport. I know there's a couple names there that have been in the talks. But honestly, I trust the guy. He's done well in the past. He in his presser, he mentioned that this Cohen leaving and all this is the fault of our own success at Mississippi State in hiring athletic directors. So he's done a great job, and I wish I had a better answer or a couple names to throw out. But I honestly don't know where we're headed or what route we're going to take, and I do fully trust Mark Keenum to go get the right guy for the job.
Ray, I wrote an article about this on Tuesday titled "What Happens Now That John Cohen Is Out," and I gave a couple of different candidates that might be considered. I would like to see us go outside of Mississippi State just to have a outside mind come in and look at the program and go, man, why aren't y'all doing this with NIL? I would like someone who has NIL knowledge. The game is changing, and if we don't go ahead and get started with it, we're going to fall way behind. So I like John Curry from Wake Forest. He was at Tennessee at one time. When he was at Tennessee, he kind of was in a dumpster because of he came in after Phil Fulmer, who had pretty much just turned everything into a dumpster fire. I love Phil Fulmer and winning national championships in '98, but he was kind of the first start of coaches may not make the best athletic directors. Sorry, Auburn, for saying that out loud, but that just might be the case. And so I like John Curry. Jared Banco is a name that's been thrown out there. He was the associate AD under Scott Strickland. I don't know his knowledge of NIL, but again, I would like for that to be a thing. And then I wrote hires that might be really, really good, but probably wouldn't leave their own schools to come here. And that was Hunter Yurachek from Arkansas, and then Mark Harlan from Utah. Those are two schools that are doing pretty well that may not leave to come to Mississippi State. Yeah. But those are two big names. And if Mark Keenum got them, man, that would be huge.
I will say John Curry was one I definitely was like, he's one of the guys that popped up a lot, really, really solid at Wake Forest, and then Arkansas as well. Yeah, they've done. Arkansas is another team or another university in the SEC that's done really well hiring athletic directors in the past. So I agree with you. I think you named everybody that's at the top of the list. We'll just kind of have to see. And also, I do think we should go outside of the university here.
Jordan Thompson sends in, will we split the plays 50-50 between pass and run this game because we are at home, or am I tripping that we run the ball away from home?
No, you're not at all. I think we've definitely done that in the past. I hope I don't think it'll be 50-50, maybe 70-30 pass run. But I'm hoping it's close to that, honestly. I think if it is, then we probably win the game. And what we'll see and what we've noticed is if we are running the ball more, it's because we're having success with it. because I feel like if we don't have early success with the run game, we kind of get away from it and get back into the pass game. So if we are running closer to 50-50, run pass or run versus pass, then I think we're having a good day against Auburn on the ground. So
Evan Ertl sends in, how worried are you about the interim bump? Everyone and their mom wanted Harsin out. Will that do anything for the team?
Oh, that's tough. It really well could. I mean, they could be on fire just because they're so glad that their head coach is gone.
Yeah.
And Cadillac was a running back. I mean, he might be able to tell Tank a couple things that get him fired up for Saturday and get him ready to go, put up 180 yards on us. I hope none of that happens. I hope we're able to put a scheme together to go stop them. I know we alluded to it a little bit earlier in the podcast, but I honestly do think we're in a better position right now if Brian Harsin is still the head coach and we don't have to go up against the interim head coach. It's tough to say. I want to see what happens on Saturday. Cadillac might not know what's going on and we might be able to just kill him. But I do think it puts us at a disadvantage before the game starts.
Yeah. I'll answer this one for you because you've already hit on this, but Jennifer Edwards sends in, couldn't this hire have waited a week or until after the game was played? Jennifer, it's a business decision. I think that we kind of talked, Addison mentioned this in his tweet, and go follow him on Twitter and kind of see his response to Matt Wyatt. It's not emotional. It's let's go to a bigger program that I can win more national championships at and hire a coach. They needed him now. They did.
Right.
Guys,
right.
Auburn was a disaster. So they needed him now. It was a business decision. The timing just kind of worked out the week that we played them.
Yeah.
I really think that was coincidence more than anything.
Yeah.
And they just needed him in. So
I do too. I think it was coincidence, and when they realized they could get him in this week, they were like, "Yeah, let's make sure it's against Mississippi State now." For sure.
William Mitchell sends in, will State have two backs break 100 yards, and will Will Rogers hit 7 touchdowns on the day for a first of his career?
Lord, if we have two backs break 100, and Will Rogers hit 7 TDs. Then I don't know. We need to go bet on a lottery or something. That's a crazy day, dude. That is a crazy day. I will say one thing: we will not have two backs break 100.
No.
That's just not gonna happen. If it does, I'll come back next week and apologize. And that'll honestly be all I talk about is how did we have two backs break 100 yards? That's a complete scheme change for us. That's different than anything we've even remotely gotten close to this year. One back breaking 100 yards is absurd for us, really, and puts us in a great position, or 100 rushing yards, and puts us in a great position to win. Will Rogers scoring 7 TDs? I don't think that'll happen. I would love it. Don't get me wrong. I think 3 to 5 is pretty reasonable. And especially if we're running a little bit more, I think some of that will come from the run game. But no, I don't think we'll have 7 TDs and 100 plus on 2 rushing backs.
William, if these things happen, there's no way we don't score 63 points on Saturday. There's no way we don't have more than 9 touchdowns.
Right.
Now, well, that being said, we would probably miss a couple extra points in between. So
yeah, right.
Calculating maybe over under 60 with the missed extra point. So
yeah,
I hope you're right, William, and I really do. Craig Harris sends in, last question: how should we view the air raid offense when Mississippi State has combined for 13 points over its last 2 contests against ranked foes? The Dogs have been incredibly effective against lesser competition thus far, but have swung and missed against reputable foes.
I'll tell you something right now. This is the best question we've had all year. These are the type of questions we need fans to be thinking about and things that they need to. We got to have this in our mind right now. Like was it Greg or Craig?
Craig
is a smart Mississippi State fan. He realizes that we're not really seeing success right now. And we're hearing that things are working at the air raid works, and it does work in the SEC and all that. Well, we got to see some wins, guys. And I agree with everything he's saying. 13 points. I didn't even know that because I didn't even really look at that. That's bad. That's really bad. That is really, really, really bad. So there is obviously something about the air raid and the offense that we're running right now that is not good. there's something that needs to be fixed. Is it Will Rogers? Is it the run game? Is it our offensive line? Is it our wide receivers? What is it? I can't put a finger on it because I feel like we're pretty good, pretty solid across the board. We know we've got good wide receivers. We know Will Rogers is a good quarterback. Our offensive line has played good this year, even with some injuries. Our running backs are good. So what is the problem? At the end of the day, the only thing that we really can put a finger on is the scheme itself. You know what I mean? And that's what's tough. And that's what's really tough about being in the SEC is that we're playing such talented football teams that even if the scheme works and we execute, they might just make a play that they might be more athletic and just outplay us at the end of the day. That's such a tough question, but it's really something like it's a great, fantastic question. It's such a tough question, such a good question because we don't really have an answer for it. And it really all that we can do is just kind of continue to build on it and pay attention to it. I think that's why I like that question. We need to pay attention to if the air raid is actually working or not. And we need to pay attention to why it's successful when it is successful and why it's not successful when it's not successful. I think we're moving away from a complete air raid and kind of going into like a run pass. I know that's a long-winded question or a long-winded answer. I just love that question. I could talk about that all day because that's a great question about a scheme of our offense. And obviously there's a dysfunction there.
Craig, I think that in the Pac-12, it was always effective. I would say 75% plus of the time it was effective in the Pac-12 because you can throw every play in the Pac-12 and you're going to pick up yards. It's open most of the time against those defenses. The defense is not prepared to be able to stop that. In the SEC, defenses are prepared and has the talent to stop the air raid if we're going to throw 60 times a game. I think the answer in the SEC is establishing the run, and I'm basing that off facts, and I'm basing that off. We once we get started with the run, we can't go away from it. That's what happened against Alabama, and I know Alabama's kind of a tough scenario to base it off of just because of the talent level, and we kind of knew we would lose that game, but we started with the run game, and I'm like, wow, this team looks good. We're moving. I think Dylan Johnson's a big factor this Saturday, and once we get moving, don't stop. Don't stop for a while until we know their defensive scheme has changed. And once they change it, air it out. And we did that against Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. We did that against Arkansas. Those two games are the ones that I can point to where we established the run game. Dylan Johnson and Woody Marks are both moving the ball. They switch something. Their defensive scheme starts to change, and Mike Leach sees it and goes, "Let's air it out," and gives Will Rogers what he can do best, which is just start looking downfield. And you start picking up 10, 15, 20 yards of play. You're getting down to the end zone, and you're going to put it in. Will Rogers will put it in the end zone, but it has to start with establishing the run. So, Craig, wonderful question. Craig writes for Maroon and White Nation as well. Addison, you're in his articles probably look the most similar, in my opinion. That y'all are very statistically minded, and I like how y'all both write. So thank you, Craig, for sending that questions.
That was a great question. And to your point, I'll say one thing about that too. You said something that I feel like I need to bring. You said in the pack, it works a lot. And I think that the fundamental thing is the way that the defense in the SEC flies to the football versus the way they do in the pack. You know, the dink and dunk works more in the pack because normally their running backs can make one or two linebackers miss and go get 5, 6 every time. It's really, really hard to make a Roquan Smith type dude miss in the SEC. I could name 40 others than Roquan Smith, you know. It's really tough. So it's a different ball game. Got to get the ground game established. Love that question though.
Thank you everyone for sending in your questions this week. We really appreciate it. It's our favorite thing to do on the show. We will be back next Tuesday to recap the Auburn game. Hopefully we are talking about a dominant performance by the Bulldogs and a win on Saturday. So if you're going to Starkville, have a great time this weekend. Stay safe. Eat some Two Brothers wings for me, please. And then just have a great time. Hopefully you bring us home a dub. Thank you so much for listening to Cowbell Off Campus. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review, and we'll see you guys next week.